It was the kind of Sunday made for peace. The sun was warm, the wind gentle, and the shade of the maple tree in my backyard dappled across the old book I had read a dozen times. A tall glass of lemonade sweated beside my lawn chair, and the only sound was the hum of distant sprinklers and the occasional chirp of a bird. For the first time all week, everything felt still. My name is Evan Blake, and I was sitting in the backyard of my own home, fully deeded, fenced, and, most importantly, not part of the HOA. You see, my property had been grandfathered in long before the Halcyon Meadows Homeowners Association existed, a quiet little parcel that sat just outside their governing reach. I wasn't subject to their rules, nor was I interested in their endless pamphlets or community potlucks about shrub height. But apparently, that boundary wasn't as obvious to everyone. I noticed her before I heard her, the way her shadow fell across my fence like a sundial ticking toward trouble. She stood there with a clipboard in one hand and a phone in the other. Pastel pink tracksuit, oversized sunglasses, platinum bob cut like it had been measured with a protractor. Her name, legally, was June and Whitaker, but everyone in the neighborhood called her by the same name. Karen. Karen believed she was born to enforce rules, even if she had to invent them. She carried a laminated badge that read Vice Chair, Enforcement Division, which I'm fairly certain she made herself using clip art and a discount laminator. That afternoon, she had set her sights on me. "You have 5 seconds to leave this property, or I'm calling HOA security," she barked, brandishing her phone like it was a taser. I took a slow sip of lemonade and looked up from my book. "Would you like to speak to the Secret Service agent in the car first, or after you hang up?" She blinked. And then the passenger door of the black SUV parked at the curb opened with a hiss. The moment Karen saw the suited man step out, earpiece, sunglasses, badge clipped to his belt, her world tilted off its axis. The man was Agent Thomas Rivera, one of the rotating detail assigned to me due to the nature of my work. I'm a federal consultant, not flashy, not top-secret James Bond stuff, but enough to warrant security, especially on classified infrastructure projects. Quiet, serious work. Until now. Let me rewind. Karen had been lurking for weeks, watching. She saw men in suits come and go. Saw black cars and briefcases. She assumed the worst and decided that I, Evan Blake, was a squatter, or worse, some sort of con artist impersonating a federal worker to live rent-free in a house that didn't belong to me. So today, she marched up to the edge of my yard like a mall cop ready to tackle shoplifters. "You're not supposed to be here," she sneered. I laughed, genuinely confused. "What do you mean? This yard belongs to the HOA. You're not allowed here unless you're a member." "Ma'am, I live here." She scoffed. "No, you don't. This house belongs to a federal contractor. You're probably a fraud. We've seen the men in suits. I am that federal contractor." That's when she pulled out her phone and said she was calling Neighborhood Patrol. I asked her, "Is that a real thing?" "Yes," she snapped. "And they have authority. Unlike you." Seconds later, the sound of squeaky tires hit the curb. It was Chad, shirtless, sunburned, and riding a golf cart outfitted with a siren and a megaphone. His sunglasses wrapped halfway around his head, and he had a Bluetooth headset for no apparent reason. "Sir," he boomed into the megaphone, "you are trespassing on HOA-monitored land. Vacate immediately." I looked around for hidden cameras. I truly believed I was on some sort of prank show. Karen started recording. Chad did too. Neighbors peeked through blinds. I calmly pulled out my phone and called Rivera. "Sir," he answered, "you may want to circle around back. We have an HOA situation." "Understood." Karen, seeing me on the phone, yelled, "He's pretending to be some kind of agent. He's dangerous. Someone get the kids inside." Chad screamed, "We've got a hostage." I bit my lip to keep from laughing. A few minutes later, a black SUV rounded the corner, parked outside my fence. 2 men got out, Rivera and his partner, Agent Lynn. They didn't rush. No weapons drawn. Just calm, practiced steps. Rivera nodded at me. "Everything okay, sir? Karen here thinks I don't live here." Rivera turned to her. "Ma'am, this gentleman is a federally protected consultant. You've just interfered with a secure location." Karen's face dropped. "This is fake," she shrieked. "You're all actors. I saw this on YouTube." Chad began backing away, golf cart in reverse like he was escaping a heist gone wrong. Rivera held up his badge. Karen swatted at it like a gnat. "That's not real. I know my rights." Rivera tapped his earpiece. Civilian refusing to comply. Requesting documentation team. Another SUV appeared, this one emblazoned with Homeland Security. Chad tripped over his own foot trying to flee. "You're all going to regret this," Karen hissed. "Live streaming now." "I'm calling the news." "Ma'am," Rivera said calmly, "you're already live." Karen should have backed down, but she didn't. Instead, she called an emergency HOA meeting in her backyard. I watched from my porch, coffee in hand, binoculars raised. They had folding chairs, a table of donuts, a speaker. A dozen neighbors showed up. Karen passed out flyers labeled, "Defend our neighborhood from infiltrators." She even unveiled a hand-drawn diagram of my yard. One arrow pointed to my garden hose labeled, "Unidentified pipeline." Another circled my satellite dish with the words, "Mind control beam." "Should we be concerned?" Rivera asked. "Only if she builds a trebuchet," I replied. The meeting climaxed when Karen, standing on a plastic chair, shouted, "All in favor of evicting the intruder, raise your hands." Only 2 people raised their hands, one mid-bite into a donut. Chad muttered, "I think I forgot how to write." Rivera calmly stepped forward, holding a tablet. "Ma'am, this is drone footage from last week. You're seen entering this property without permission 7 times. Making threats. Recording video." Karen blinked. "That's fake. Deep fake. All of it. Looks like your blue visor," Chad muttered. Karen shrieked, "I'm calling the real media." And somehow, they came. A local news van pulled up the next day. Karen marched the reporter to my fence like she was revealing Area 51. She accused my solar panels of intercepting Wi-Fi, my mailbox of storing classified data, and my compost bin of housing surveillance tech. Rivera stepped out. "Calm. You're welcome to film from public land. But cross this line, and you're trespassing." The reporter glanced at his camera crew. "We'll be in touch." They packed up. Karen was livid. "They're covering it up," she screamed to her phone. "But the truth will come out." By Monday, her yard had become a circus. She erected a white tent labeled Community Truth Zone. Hand-painted signs read, "Fake feds equals real tyranny." Blurry screenshots of my house were pinned to corkboards. Rivera watched from my window, sipping coffee. "She's not just wrong," I said. "She's committed." Then came the climax. Karen, in a robe, crept across the street at dawn and touched the surveillance pole beside my fence. "This is still America," she cried. A silent alarm triggered. Within 20 minutes, a federal response team arrived. Karen was still filming when they placed her under arrest for trespassing on federally protected property. Her phone clattered to the pavement, "Still live." Chad peeked out his window, muttered, "This is why I don't join committees." The footage hit local social media like wildfire. Someone added the theme from Cops and labeled it, #Karen vs. Feds. Her tent was dismantled. Her flyers burned. By Tuesday night, someone projected the arrest video on their garage during a barbecue. Then the final twist. A plain white van pulled into Karen's driveway. 2 plainclothes agents from the IRS stepped out. "She's being served," Rivera said, reading the feed. "Misappropriation of HOA funds." Turns out, Karen had used HOA fees for personal landscaping, hot tubs, and community emergency signage, read, "Her tent." The HOA board held an emergency vote. Karen was removed from all positions. Rivera smirked. "You were right. She wasn't going to stop until she got herself arrested." The neighborhood began to heal. Rivera and Lynn hosted a cookout in my yard, now nicknamed Area 52. Kids played. Neighbors laughed. Nobody mentioned the past, except for the handmade sign someone hung on my fence. Karen-free zone. Karen moved out a month later. Quietly. No waving. No shouting. Just a moving truck and a faded sticker on her mailbox. Rivera joined me on the porch. "Strangest case I've worked in years." "She wasn't a threat," I said. "She was a case study." The new homeowners, the Parkers, introduced themselves with cookies and a joke. "We only enforce bingo rules." Peace had returned. But I installed one more motion sensor, just in case Pastel ever returned. Because I learned something. Sometimes, the loudest battles aren't won with shouting. Sometimes, the most powerful defense is a lawn chair, a cold drink, and the truth. And I never left my yard. Not once. Not even when she screamed. Because this was my home. And I wasn't going anywhere.